anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're gonna go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's gonna help me get the job done. There is not gonna be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
The NBA will take center stage once football stops, and people will watch the NBA playoffs and all that. But the standings are whacked out in the Western Conference. Like Oklahoma City, Memphis, and the Houston Rockets are the best teams in the conference.
You want to talk about a team with overs and no defense? The Wizards are your team. It's unbelievable. They can't make a total high enough. It's nuts.
Sports Rage tonight. Weeknights 10 p.m. to 12 a.m. Only on SportsGrid.
Louis Riddick has interviewed for every job in North America. And I'm not just talking football. I'm talking about every business in North America of any kind whatsoever. Tire companies, grocery store CEOs, shopping malls, insurance companies. What job hasn't Louis Riddick interviewed for?
Pharrell Coast to Coast. Only on SportsGrid.
What a Monday it is, live right here on the Early Line on SportsGrid as we welcome you to hour number 2. A recap and a reaction to everything from the final weekend of the National Football League regular season. What it means for the playoff race, who booked those postseason tickets, who is where on the seed line, who is traveling where this upcoming weekend, who is drafting where in the 2025 NFL Draft, and who might be looking for a new job or a new head coach entering this offseason. Black Monday as well in the NFL, where the coaching carousel really starts to spin. DRS, so much to get into here in this second hour. What the postseason format and picture looks like around the NFL and how it came to be.
Yeah, absolutely. And we got a nice 2 hours to go here, and we're keeping our eye here on social media to see if there's any more additions to Black Monday from the head coach, from the general managing position, any news information that's leaking out, because teams are going to need coaches. That coaching carousel is going to start really quickly here, which includes in New England, as we'll talk about who some of those options would be, like Mike Vrabel's coming back to town, but a lot to get to and decipher. And also, one of my favorite weeks in football is this weekend in the NFL, but I do love the divisional round the next week, when I always like to say all the big boys come to play. In the past, it was the top two teams returning back to the field. Now it's just going to be Detroit and Kansas City, and we get games tougher and tougher as they go, but an awesome weekend. Saturday, Sunday, and Monday in the NFL should be good.
Thursday and Friday in the college football playoff as well. An FCS National Championship tonight as well in Frisco, Texas. The Bobcats of Montana State in the powerhouse at the FCS level, the Bison of North Dakota State. We'll talk about that game a little bit later on. DRS, quickly from yesterday in Denver. What a rookie season for Bo Nix. The 12th overall pick, the 6th and final quarterback selected in the opening round in April of 2024 to end out the regular season when Denver simply needed to win a game booked as a double-digit favorite at home. Bo Nix left zero doubt. 38-zip the victory, but 26 of 29 for 321 yards and 4 touchdowns was the Broncos' leading rusher on the day as well, with 47 yards on the ground. Denver entered this year with Sean Payton in his second season and a rookie quarterback with a win total of 5.5. They are now into the postseason for the first time in nearly a decade since 2015 when the Broncos won a Super Bowl. Denver will be the 7th seed. They have a road trip upcoming early on Sunday in Western New York against Josh Allen and the Bills. Not expected to win that game, but Donnie, still a wildly successful season at Mile High. And not to toot my own horn here, but just to display what Bo Nix did in his rookie season. His passing yards prop entering the year might have been the best bet I've ever made in my life. 28.50 and a hook. He finishes with 3,775, nearly over by 1,000 yards. What a successful rookie campaign for Nix and a bright future ahead for Denver.
No doubt about it. And they got the young core that's going to be available. And also keep in mind, entering into the season, $40 to $50 million in dead cap money that they're still trying to spend from that Russell Wilson deal. They're going to have draft picks. They're going to have money to spend. This is going to be a team they're going to want to watch out for. Why? Kansas City always knows up top. The Chargers we know is up there. The Vegas Raiders will never be up there. So that is a 3-team race that's going to be going over the next 5 to 10 years. And Denver just looks like it's poking its head through the door. Keep in mind, they probably could have had a sweep over the Kansas City Chiefs this season. And also, keep in mind, most people are saying, like, well, hey, if Kansas City played their starters, they would have just beat the Broncos anyway. Are we sure of that right now? Like, the Broncos are playing good football. And also, I'm going to tell you right now, looking at those future lines here, Denver's staying within that number in Buffalo. How about that?
8.5-point spread, the largest spread that we will see for Super Wild Card Weekend in any of our 6 playoff matchups to open up the opening round of the postseason. So again, it was simple. Denver needed to win on Sunday. They claimed the final spot in the AFC. If for whatever reason the Broncos did lose, it would open the door for the Dolphins or the Bengals. Since he was up first on Saturday night, in Cincinnati did win in the Steel City 19-17 against the Steelers. The Steelers did cover, courtesy of a Chris Boswell field goal with just over 2.5 minutes remaining as a 2.5-point dog. A total of 48.5 stayed well under, despite 5 consecutive wins for the Bengals to end out the regular season. DRS and MVP caliber performances out of Joe Burrow, the man on your screen. When you start 0-3, it is too large of a hole to crawl yourself out of. The Bengals will miss out on the postseason. The Steelers still in, but as the 6th seed after dropping 4 consecutive games to end out the regular season.
Yeah, it's a shame because I wanted to see the Bengals in. They're a fun team to bet. They don't really play good defense outside of that game they played against the Pittsburgh Steelers. But this was the team, Ben, that all offseason I was just banging down the door on how those vibes are bad. I'm out on the Bengals. 0-1, 0-2, 0-3, they're out. They kept trying to get themselves in position to make the playoffs, but you can't blow that many football games, which includes an opening day against the New England Patriots as an embarrassing loss. But understand this. They played hard down the stretch. They got their defense together in the biggest game of their season against the Steelers. They came into this football game on the road in freezing cold temperatures where the Steelers were playing all of their starters. They went in without their top running back in T. Higgins with a high ankle sprain and were still able to beat the Pittsburgh Steelers in their own building by 2 points here. Do we know if the Bengals would have did any damage in the playoffs? Probably not, because their defense probably would have reared its ugly head, gave up 30 points, and needed Joe Burrow to be a hero. But also from the ingredients of the Pittsburgh Steelers, what to expect from them as they're playing their worst football of the season at the worst time to play your worst football of the season as they're going to take on the Baltimore Ravens. But it is a shame. And also, there will be big changes for the Bengals. Understand this. Again, I'll say this Mike Brown is the cheapest owner in professional sports, which does obviously include the NFL. So you're telling me next year you're going to re-sign T. Higgins, you're going to pay Jamar Chase more than any other offensive player outside of a quarterback. And do you remember who's coming on down the stretch? Like, damn, Mike Gesicki is a good piece to have on that offense. He's a free agent. It was a 1-year, $2.5 million deal, which now he played himself into a $10 million a year player. He's gone as well. So now you're looking at just Jamar Chase back. You're going to lose T. Higgins and Gesicki. And he's going to be like, let's spend a little cheap defensive money out here. Hopefully get a couple players who've been suspended multiple times who are good players but can't stay on the field and will save money. That's the Bengals way. It's a shame they have that ownership group because we should not be talking about T. Higgins not being back. Chase and Higgins should already been signed to long-term deals, which, Ben, as we laughed in the offseason, watch how much money Jamar Chase is going to cost this year as opposed to last year. And if you think about renegotiating with T. Higgins, how much you're going to save by signing him last year as opposed to this year? My goodness, Mike Brown, what a terrible, terrible owner.
T. Higgins played on the franchise tag. Mike Brown said on the opening day of training camp that contract extension conversations were meant for the offseason, disregarding the previous 5 months. Well, hey, Mikey boy, it's the offseason now for the Cincinnati Bengals. And, that paycheck for Ja'Marr Chase, it's going to be a big one. A triple crown season for Ja'Marr Chase in his 4th year in the NFL. 127 receptions. That's first in the National Football League. 1,708 receiving yards. That's also tops in the NFL. 17 receiving touchdowns. A triple crown season, leading the NFL in receptions, receiving yards, receiving touchdowns. The second player alongside Cooper Kupp to do so since 2005. It is going to be a monumental payday for Ja'Marr Chase. You bet on it. You didn't cash that bet for Mike Brown. And now payday is up for Ja'Marr Chase. Again, the Bengals, a disappointing season despite winning 5 straight games. For the Steelers, DRS, losers of 4 straight to end out the regular season. We knew the home stretch for the Steelers was going to be the most difficult stretch of the season, and for sure it was. I made a mistake. I said the Broncos as an 8.5-point dog, the largest spread of Super Wild Card weekend. I was incorrect. It's the Steelers as a 9.5-point underdog in Baltimore against the Ravens on Saturday night. We continue on the early line. Up next.
There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Right here with you on Pro Football Today on SportsGrid. Odds in motion, trying to see what lines have moved throughout the week.
Never felt more comfortable in this set than I do for this year. I'm ready. I'm just getting angry. The hot takes are going to be here all long, people.
You don't want them to go 13-0 and then lose the first round of the playoffs.
Red.
Yeah, this is their last shot. They don't really have anywhere else to go yet. Hot take.
By the time I hit, I guess what, Route 33 up here, that ticket's cashing.
Only on SportsGrid.
The final weekend of the 2024 National Football League regular season, even in games that ultimately did not matter, still a ton of storylines to recap and react for you. DRS, that included in MetLife, as the Broncos were pasting the Chiefs. Backups in Mile High. Miami could quickly see without Tua Tagovailoa, their season was coming to a close. They needed to win to keep any hope alive they did not, losing by double digits as a slight underdog in New York, or rather New Jersey, against Gang Green and the Jets. We'll talk about the Dolphins in just a moment, but one of the storylines and narratives entering the regular season finale for Gang Green, would it be the final game we would see for Aaron Rodgers? Year number 20 in the National Football League, first 18 in Green Bay, these last 2 disappointing with the New York Jets. He ended, though, with some history. 23 of 36, 274 yards, 4 touchdowns, including his 500th passing touchdown in his National Football League career, as you see there. DRS, peer into your crystal ball. Was this the final game of Aaron Rodgers' NFL career?
With the Jets, probably so. In the NFL, absolutely not. He can't let go of the limelight at this point. And he's going to convince some owner, some general manager, some football team to bring him in. Did you see what I just did? 274, 4 touchdowns. It was never my fault there. I was brought in to be the savior. I ruined the franchise itself. But trust me, I can save your franchise as well. Some team is going to buy into that, and they're going to sign up, and they're going to get exactly what they deserve. Did he play well yesterday? Yes. Was it cold weather? The Dolphins looked like they checked out, which includes more players than one, which includes that offense at wide receiver. But having said that, he did play well yesterday, threw the 4 touchdowns, got through that 500 number. But to answer your question, there is no way he's hanging up the cleats at this point. He is going to swindle another franchise to give him an opportunity to ruin that said franchise.
He turned 41 years old earlier in December. He has played 2 decades now in the National Football League. Aaron Rodgers, after the game by Fox's Pam Oliver, was asked on the field what his process is to decide on his future. He did not mention darkness. He did mention allowing the body to heal up out on the West Coast and would let people know quickly. Aaron Rodgers, though, is one for the dramatic flair. We shall see. To your point, DRS, I believe he is done in New York. A disastrous 2-year tenure that the opening season was not his fault. 4 plays into the year, a ruptured Achilles tendon. This season, though, yeah, it wasn't great for Aaron Rodgers. Can you blame all of it on him? Can you put all of the onus on Rodgers for a franchise that, well, before Aaron was struggling mightily? 14 consecutive years missing out on the playoffs, the longest postseason drought by far in the National Football League. I'm not so sure, but it has set back this Jets franchise. Oh, by the way, some reporting from The Athletics, Diana Rossini, the Jets do not intend to formally interview Ben Johnson, the offensive coordinator of the Lions, but the defensive coordinator in Detroit, that being Aaron Glenn. A lot to figure out this offseason for the New York Jets and, of course, for Aaron Rodgers. Quickly on the Dolphins, DRS. No Tua Tagovailoa yesterday or the final 2 weeks of this season. Injury always going to be a part of the conversation for Miami's signal caller. But when you look at Mike McDaniel ending his 3rd year in South Florida, when the Dolphins have been an underdog, it has been awful. Yesterday, closing as the slight dog in East Rutherford. Miami is now 5-18 outright as an underdog in 9-14 against the spread. When the Dolphins are not expected to win a game, whether it's in cold weather or against a team that is slightly better than them, they don't. And that is inexcusable in the NFL. However, Miami is going to bring back Mike McDaniel once again. Who's coming back, though, for him in that offense? It doesn't seem to be Tyreek Hill, who said after the game, simply, I'm out, bro. I got to look out for me in what is best for my future.
Yeah, straight up loser mentality there for Tyreek Hill. It's not as if he's like, hey, look, man, I'm going through, but they didn't want to pay me. I'm a free agent this year. It's a cold game. I looked at the scoreboard. Didn't look like we were going to win, so I'm out. They just paid him a boatload of money for this season. And then to stand up at a press conference and basically say, yeah, I got to do what's best for me. And then Mike McDaniel to have his own press conference and be like, I was told he wasn't injured, didn't want to go in. I'm only worried about the competitors out there in the field. This is going to be a breakup here, but also maybe it's a good thing because, to be honest, they got caught in such a bad bind here with Tua Tagovailoa, who had so many concussion issues. It looked like we were going to make that decision. Like, he's not our franchise guy. Let's go out and find our franchise guy. only to find him stay healthy for one season, play good football, give him a lot of money, and then he got injured, and it wasn't even the concussion here. So we're led to believe that every year Tua is going to miss multiple games, if not have a season-ending / career-ending concussion at any time. Maybe you have to move on from him. You have to move on from Tyreek Hill, because the one thing we do know about franchises that win, the locker room culture has to be all in. It looked like it was a fun culture in Miami, but you really see what that culture is made up of when you go into games like this and you have seasons that are starting to turn if that locker room can turn it around. They couldn't do that. And Tyreek Hill, there's no way he should be a Miami Dolphin, but also, maybe you want to hold him hostage just a little bit down there. What do you think you're going to get? I'm just going to cut. You're going to run back to Kansas City or go play with a top-level team? Like, they'll ship him to wherever they want, but also the dead cap money they're going to take for getting rid of Tyreek Hill is going to plunder that organization too. This is a horrible look for the Dolphins offseason coming up.
It was a very funny statement from Tyreek Hill, who stressed again that he must compete for a contender. Tyreek, you forced your way out of Kansas City, the most contending team there is in the National Football League, to get your money in Miami. And the Dolphins did make the postseason in the first 2 years with Tyreek Hill on the team and Mike McDaniel as the head coach. They will miss out in 2024, but just very funny to me. DRS, seeds at stake all around the NFC playoff picture on the final Sunday of the year, and they were dramatic battles for that 6th seed in the NFC. The Commanders is nearly a touchdown favorite on the road in Dallas, expected to stomp on the Cowboys and quickly claim that 6th seed. Important because you'd rather be on the road against either the Buccaneers or the Rams than have to head to Philadelphia to start off the postseason. And Washington should know all about that. The Commanders struggled at the start against the Cowboys. We'll talk about how Marcus Mariota secured that 6th seed for the Commanders on Sunday. And when the doors seemed to be open for the Packers, they could barely beat the Bears. And in fact, they did not. Chicago snaps a couple of skids in the final Sunday of the season. We'll break it all down up next.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
The NBA will take center stage once football stops, and people will watch the NBA playoffs and all that. But the standings are whacked out in the Western Conference. Like, Oklahoma City, Memphis, and the Houston Rockets are the best teams in the conference.
You want to talk about a team with overs and no defense? The Wizards are your team. It's unbelievable. They can't make a total high enough. It's nuts.
Sports Rage tonight. Weeknights 10 p.m. to 12 a.m. Only on SportsGrid.
Louis Riddick has interviewed for every job in North America. And I'm not just talking football. I'm talking about every business in North America of any kind whatsoever. Tire companies, grocery store CEOs, shopping malls, insurance companies. What job hasn't Louis Riddick interviewed for?
Pharrell Coast to Coast. Only on SportsGrid.
In the final weekend of the National Football League regular season, it wasn't just playoff spots, but also postseason seeds that needed to be determined, and the motivation to do exactly that. Except in the early window on Sunday, it seemed as though teams didn't really care where they would be for their playoff lives. That was the case in Dallas, as the Cowboys were a 6.5-point home underdog against the Commanders. Washington got off to a very sluggish start, then put Jaden Daniels on the bench and inserted Marcus Mariota. And the Commanders, under 5 minutes remaining in regulation, in fact, with just 3 minutes and 18 seconds left, were trailing by a field goal, 19-16. But enter Mariota, who led the Commanders on an 11-play, 91-yard drive, connecting with Terry McLaurin from 5 yards out with only 3 ticks remaining in regulation to give Washington a win in the 6th seed in the NFC playoff picture. 23-19, the final. Washington did not cover as a 6.5-point road favorite. That line was just a field goal earlier in the week. Total of 43.5 does stay under. But ultimately, Donnie, Marcus Mariota in Washington does just enough, with a lot of the key starters out there to beat Trey Lance in the Dallas Cowboys and secure that 6th spot in a visit to Tampa Bay this upcoming Sunday night.
Yeah, coming into the game, I really liked Washington. And again, you're right. The 3s, the 3.5s, the 4.5s turned into 6.5s and 7s late in the week. I thought it was going to be an easy victory for the Commanders. But I understood the game flow of what happened, but coming into it, I never thought they were going to be resting any starters in this game because you wanted to try to avoid Philadelphia at all costs. You were a touchdown favorite because your starters were going to play. You needed that win to stay out of that 7 seed where you didn't want to play the Eagles. And then only midway through the game to see Jaden Daniels throw 12 passes, get buried under 4 sacks, run it 4 times. Like, hey, guys, we're going to get this guy killed if he continues to play after a 16-rush performance the week before. Then Mariota comes in and seals the game, which is pretty incredible. But how about this, though? Trey Lance actually showing like he might be an NFL quarterback. We're not saying starter, but this guy was left on the scrap heap and played decent football against the Washington starters here. But the bigger picture here is Washington does move on to the playoffs. It'll be fun to watch. Dallas is a ridiculously bad franchise right now. But at the same time, Cooper Rush, who started for you, who's your backup, who makes backup money, was in line to get possibly $500,000, which would have been tough to get, but guaranteed $250,000 if he just started and played that football game. They played Trey Lance, and they asked Jerry Jones and said, Jerry, what did you do that for? Was it just you didn't want to pay the guy $500,000 or $250,000? And as the owner of the team, who is the general manager, who said he had no idea, as if he's not briefed on a week-to-week basis about their salary cap and incentives that are coming up. And in week 18, where you take care of your guys every year. Every team does it here. For a guy that just needs to start a meaningless football game and make that money, and Jerry to play it off like, I had no idea, that just shows, man, as long as Jerry Jones is there, they're never going to get deep into the playoffs. They're never going to win a Super Bowl while he's running things. You just don't do that to your teams here. You just don't do that.
So there were a lot of reports about the actual finances that came out for Cooper Rush. He'd already played 45% of the snaps, earning $250,000. If he played 55, it would have been an extra $250,000. He would have needed to play about 80-plus snaps in the game. So it wasn't as egregious, at least on paper. And then Jerry came out and said what he said, and you're like, all right, man, like, come on, right? So for Jerry Jones, this offseason is going to be uneasy. Mike McCarthy doesn't need to be fired as the head coach. He doesn't have a contract beyond the end of yesterday. What the Cowboys do at the head coaching spot will be studied, and Micah Parsons' new pay tab will be up for grabs as well. VRS, as the door seemed open in Dallas, as the Commanders were trailing in the final 5 minutes of regulation, the Packers as a 9.5-point home favorite in Lambeau against the Chicago Bears, a team that Green Bay had beaten 11 consecutive tries, a team that had lost 10 consecutive games entering the regular season finale. If Green Bay won, they're the 6th seed and on the road against Tampa. Instead, Green Bay did not win. These two teams exchanged 50-yard field goals in the final minute of regulation. This time, Cairo Santos delivered a 51-yarder as time expired. Chicago wins 24-22 to snap an 11-game slide against their hated Packers and a 10-game slide to end out the regular season, at least with a victory.
I watched this football game before it started. I said to myself, why would the Packers play any starters here? You don't have anything in your grasp where if you win, you still have to have some help from other teams to move up, rest, and then play the Philadelphia Eagles. You get Jordan Love banged up. You lose Christian Watson for the season. But understand how important this game was. Love was ruled out of that football game with 2.5 minutes to go. He tried to warm up to get back in. Why? Because they didn't want to play the Philadelphia Eagles. Now they're getting it.
Plenty more from the NFC next.
We'll be right back. It's time for a SportsGrid 2-minute drill.
Time now to play a little buy or sell. The Kansas City Chiefs, George, will win their third straight Super Bowl. Are you buying or selling?
They do seem to be hitting their stride. All right, they get now, 3.5 weeks off here, get everybody healthy. Mahomes, the ankle, Kelsey gets the rest. Chris Jones, who missed that game on Christmas, now he gets the rest of it. He's an extremely important part of that defense. So they're looking good. They're covering spreads now, something they weren't doing. Now they're actually winning legitimate games. That being said, that offensive line is still bad. All right, and I think there'll be teams that take advantage of that. No, I'm selling. I'm selling here.
I don't even care if I believe this or not. I'm selling. I do not want to see this. I do not want to see the Chiefs win again. This has not been a fun year watching them. They've gotten lucky. They've gotten some calls. No, please no. Jamar Chase will win the receiving triple crown this season. Yards, receptions, and touchdowns. George, you going to buy or sell this?
I'm going to sell this. I'm going to say, listen, he's great. He's going to have a lot of great numbers here, but I'm going to say no, he won't get the receiver crown. Maybe 2 out of 3. He'll just miss. He'll do a little Aaron Judge. He won't get the average.
All right, I'll play the buy. I'll play the buy card just to play something different in the end, and he was my best player in fantasy this year, so I'll say buy there. I'm going to skip ahead, Sam, to the last one, the running back here. Bucky Irving, who's been fantastic for Tampa Bay, will be a top 8 running back in drafts next season. Is this buy or sell?
Assuming everybody comes back, Godwin, Evans, Mayfield, I see no reason why they wouldn't. I'm going to buy this, Craig. I'm going to buy. I think Bucky Irving is going to be that guy. It's a heavy passing offense, lots of touchdowns. Buy.
Fantasy Sports Today, your weekend source for year-round fantasy insights, 8 a.m. to 11 a.m.
We continue our reactions from the final weekend of the National Football League regular season and exactly how the playoff formats formed and what it means for the postseason moving forward. Quickly back to Green Bay, as Donnie was alluding to, in the final few minutes of regulation, as the Packers saw the Commanders trailing in Dallas in maybe an opening to be the 6th seed and not have to head to Philadelphia to start off playoff action. Green Bay had Jordan Love, who was ruled or injured early in the game, start warming up on the sideline. He did not come back in. It was Malik Willis, and Brandon McManus did drill a 55-yard field goal to give Green Bay a lead, only to see the Bears win it as time expired in regulation. Donnie, to your point, the Packers were not in control of their seed destiny entering the final Sunday of the year, but saw Washington start to stumble at the Star against Dallas. As a result, Washington still ends up with a win. The Packers get embarrassed by their most bitter rival, who now snaps an 11-game skid against Green Bay, winning at Lambeau for the first time in nearly a decade since 2015, and comes out of the regular season finale banged up. Questions around Jordan Love, what the Packers are calling a throwing elbow injury, and Christian Watson now out for the remainder of this playoff run for the Pack.
Yeah, and they missed a key opportunity to rest the majority of their starters in this game, but it almost paid, dividends where if they were going to win that football game and Washington would lose, you would say you get an easier path to possibly winning a Super Bowl. Now it's tough. Now, the Packers are a good football team. There's nothing wrong, but at the same time, every time, Ben, they're asked to step up against an opponent that's probably going to beat them, they lost all of those games. The Eagles to open up the season in Brazil. Then you take a look at 2 losses to the Vikings and 2 to the Detroit Lions. Now, granted, they're all good football teams. And then you lost to the Bears, who were dead to rights, not playing for anything on your home field when there was a chance that you could actually improve your seeding. Not playing great football to end the season, that's an issue here. They are talented. Yes, they can catch lightning in a bottle, but you saw the moments where the Green Bay Packers thought, we have a chance to avoid Philadelphia, get the quarterback back in the game who we absolutely benched because we didn't want him to get hurt any further. We need you to win this game. Then they kick the field goal to win it. And it looks like they're going to be that seed, only to see a final second surge for the Washington Commanders, and then the Chicago Bears go right down the field and kick a field goal to beat them nonetheless. That was a tough day for the Packers with a lot of roller coaster of emotions.
As interim head coach Thomas Brown edges out Green Bay, Matt Eberflus now remains the only head coach in the long history of the Bears as a football franchise to not beat the Green Bay Packers. DRS, other seeds at stake yesterday around the NFC, but as Sean McVay has told us time and again, if the game is rather meaningless, he's not going to put his starters in harm's way. So LA with a lot of backups yesterday, including Jimmy Garoppolo getting a start against the Seahawks, who played everybody because some money was at stake, namely for Geno Smith, who goes out there and throws for 223, a career-high 4 touchdowns, and because of it, leading Seattle to its 10th victory of the year. Geno cashes in about $6 million in incentives yesterday in Los Angeles. The Seahawks win 30-25. The Rams do cover as a 7-point home dog. Total of 38.5 does sky over. Seattle guarantees a winning season for the 12th time in the last 13 years. Seattle, the only team to get to double-digit victories in 2024 that failed to reach the playoffs. Still some things to build around in Seattle, and a big contract day for Geno Smith.
It was a big contract day for Geno Smith, and I don't think usually it's like, hey, a couple $100,000, $1 million. You even saw Mike Evans getting a lot of money, close to $3 million there to get his potential. I don't think I've ever seen $6 million on the line in the final game of a season, and it coming through, which is pretty impressive. And also, it is a shame a little bit than you see. The Rams are moving forward, 10 wins on the season. They got the job done. They won that division, but also the sewer luck losers here who, hey, played hard all season long, 10-7 Seattle, probably deserved the spot. Just a matter of how some of those chips fall and how good some of those wild card teams actually were this year to keep them out of it. But they played well. They still have a bright future. We just don't know. And Geno Smith actually said after the game, love this team, love this culture. With or without me, they're going to be just fine. That was an interesting comment he made there to see what's in the future for him and the Seattle Seahawks.
Unfortunate for the Hawks, DRS, because with the win yesterday, it might have been different had it come down to the divisional tiebreaker. The Rams would, of course, played everybody to claim the division. But in the overall standings, you'll look at a Seahawks team and a Rams team, both 10-7, both 4-2 in the division, both 6-6 in the conference. The Seahawks had a better point differential than that of LA, but because of strength of opponent record, that was the tiebreaker that clinched the NFC West for the Rams. So the Rams fall all the way to the 4 spot. They will host the Minnesota Vikings, as we know, on Monday night to end out Super Wildcard Weekend exactly 1 week from today. The Rams, a home underdog, getting 2.5 points inside SoFi Stadium against Minnesota, who is the 5 seed. The 5 seed in the AFC, up for grabs entering this weekend. It was on Sunday. The Steelers lose at home to the Bengals. Pittsburgh in danger of falling to the 6 if the Chargers beat the Raiders in Las Vegas. It was the game, DRS, that breaking down the weekend slate on Friday felt like it would see the most movement. If the Steelers won, the Raiders might close as a favorite. If the Bengals won, the Chargers might be a touchdown favorite. They were a 6.5-point favorite after opening as a 4.5-point favorite in Vegas. And the Chargers made good on that market movement. 34-20, the victory for the Bolts. They cover as nearly a touchdown favorite in Sin City. Total of 42.5 skies over. A Chargers team early in the year, Donnie, that was led by a ground game and a great defense. Under in 7 of its first 8, now led by Justin Herbert. Over in 7 of its last 9. And Herbert yesterday, 346 yards, 2 touchdowns, throwing for at least 281 yards in the last 3 games for Los Angeles.
Yeah, this game was live on all accounts once you saw the Steelers lose, because earlier in the week you saw Harbaugh say, you know what, it'd be really nice to get that 5 seed. They wouldn't have played any starters if that had not taken place, where you saw the Cincinnati Bengals beat the Pittsburgh Steelers. But here we are now, a healthier lineup now coming into the playoffs for the Chargers. 28 of 36, 346 and 2 touchdown passes. One of my bets yesterday was over 1.5 touchdown passes, which I wasn't going to make until I saw the final score from the Bengals and the Steelers game. But now you see a healthy J.K. Dobbins, 8 carries, 63 yards. And how about this? I don't know if I've seen this before. 14 targets, 13 catches, 186 yards, 14.3 yards per reception. Quentin Johnston, the guy who just a few short weeks ago couldn't catch a pass. Now he's starting to come into his own. Ladd McConkey, much healthier than a few weeks ago, 5 catches for 95 yards. This team has defense, has offense, has a quarterback that can carry you, and a damn good coaching staff that, you know, on a game-to-game basis, no matter who they're going up, they're not going to be outcoached by the other opponent. I like what I see from the Chargers.
And Justin Herbert, DRS, multiple touchdown passes in 4 consecutive to end out the regular season. Had only thrown for 2+ touchdown passes 4 times in the first 13 games for LA this year. The Chargers, a road favorite, 10-2 against the spread as the favored side this year, which is why the race for the 5 seed in the AFC was so critical, because you knew you would head to Houston to take on the Texans in what are the Chargers to open up Super Wild Card Weekend. Death taxes, the Texans playing in the first game on Saturday afternoon in Wild Card Weekend. The Chargers are a favorite, laying 2.5 points in Houston.
Yeah, no, it's going to be interesting to watch it play out at this point. And everybody was jockeying, Ben, for that spot to play the Houston Texans. You know how we deal with this. Every year the Texans get in, the NFL wants them out as soon as possible. They put them in the first game of the playoffs here. But take that, just like we saw last year. Hey, that hot Colts team, or the hot Browns team coming to town, they can win that football game. Let's see you rise up, Texans. What do you got, CJ?
The Texans as a dog, very, very good. Even if Davis Mills is playing quarterback. We recap the final parts of the final weekend of the National Football League regular season up next on the Early Line.
We'll be right back. It's time for a SportsGrid 2-minute drill.
Time now to play a little buy or sell. The Kansas City Chiefs, George, will win their 3rd straight Super Bowl. Are you buying or selling?
They do seem to be hitting their stride. All right, they get now, 3.5 weeks off here, get everybody healthy. Mahomes the ankle, Kelsey gets the rest. Chris Jones, who missed that game on Christmas, now he gets the rest of it. He's an extremely important part of that defense. So they're looking good. They're covering spreads now, something they weren't doing. Now they're actually winning legitimate games. That being said, that offensive line is still bad. All right, and I think there'll be teams that take advantage of that. No, I'm selling. I'm selling here.
I don't even care if I believe this or not. I'm selling. I do not want to see this. I do not want to see the Chiefs win again. This has not been a fun year watching them. They've gotten lucky. They've gotten some calls. No, please no. Jamar Chase will win the receiving triple crown this season. Yards, receptions, and touchdowns. George, you going to buy or sell this?
I'm going to sell this. I'm going to say, listen, he's great. He's going to have a lot of great numbers here, but I'm going to say no, he won't get the receiver crown. Maybe 2 out of 3. He'll just miss. He'll do a little Aaron Judge. He won't get the average.
All right, I'll play the buy. I'll play the buy card just to play something different in the end, and he was my best player in fantasy this year, so I'll say buy there. I'm going to skip ahead, Sam, to the last one, the running back here. Bucky Irving, who's been fantastic for Tampa Bay, will be a top 8 running back in drafts next season. Is this buy or sell?
Assuming everybody comes back, Godwin, Evans, Mayfield, I see no reason why they wouldn't. I'm going to buy this, Craig. I'm going to buy. I think Bucky Irving is going to be that guy. It's a heavy passing offense, lots of touchdowns. Buy.
Fantasy Sports Today, your weekend source for year-round fantasy insights, 8 a.m. to 11 a.m.
A full weekend to end out the regular season around the National Football League, as we have shared, 16 games, 14 of them with implications either on the playoff race, postseason spots, playoff seeds, or the NFL draft order. That's kind of our focus now for teams that did not see the postseason. Before we get there, we start at the very top of the AFC North. The Baltimore Ravens, DRS, in the first game of week number 18 on Saturday afternoon, expected to hammer the Browns. They did exactly that. Whether it was a 19.5 or 20.5 point spread did not matter. The Flock cover that number, 35-10. The victory over Cleveland, total 41.5 does go over. Lamar wasn't all that efficient, 16 of 32, but still 217 yards and 2 touchdowns. It was Derrick Henry wearing down that Browns defensive front late in the game. $138 on the ground and 2 touchdowns. Baltimore wins, covers, and claims the AFC North divisional title.
Yep, and deservedly so. They were supposed to easily win that football game, and they did. It was a little bit closer for comfort for the spread backers here. So it looked like late in that ball game that Cleveland might be able to cover that with a late touchdown, or able to do that with a big man interception. But I like what I saw of the Ravens. Played solid defense in a game you had to win, won it easily. Derrick Henry was bottled up in the first half, got loose in the second half, close to 7 yards per carry. And Lamar Jackson, for me, my best bet of the day from Pro Football Today on Saturday was Lamar Jackson, over 1.5 touchdown passes. Looked a little murky at times, but was able to come through in the first drive in the second half, and away they go into the playoffs. But it could come at a cost here. If we're talking knee sprains here, and if Zay Flowers is down, that's going to hurt. Because the one thing that we do know, yes, the Ravens want to run the football in the playoffs. That is what they should be focused on. But Lamar Jackson is a very good passer, and if you give him weapons to exploit a secondary to help that running game, it only helps. Like Rashad Bateman stepped up, 5 catches, 76 yards, and a touchdown that game, but they need Zay Flowers. He's by far their best wideout.
6 years as a starter for Lamar in the Charm City. 3 AFC North divisional crowns for Baltimore. Again, on Saturday night, the Ravens will host the Steelers to open up Wild Card Weekend on the first day of it and this postseason. Baltimore, the largest favorite of our 6 games in the opening round, laying 9.5 points. So Cleveland entered Sunday at 3-14, in line to draft first overall. But it was rather simple. New England loses at home as an underdog against the Buffalo Bills. The Patriots would draft first overall, or at least hold that first overall selection. The Pats didn't lose. They won by a touchdown, 23-16 outright as a 3.5 point underdog. Josh Allen played 1 snap, keeping his consecutive start streak alive, 115 straight. Joe Milton said, hey, I know we need to lose this game to maybe focus on the future of this franchise, but it's probably not even Drake May. It's me. 241 yards, a passing touchdown, a rushing score as well. The Patriots don't lose. They win. The Pats will now have the 4th overall pick, and I'm not sure it was a direct result of coughing up an opportunity to hold the first overall pick, but after only 1 season as the head man in Foxborough, the Patriots fired Gerard Mayo after the game on Sunday afternoon.
And they should have. And by the way, this is what we always talk about, like the MVP of the NFL and how much it means to, if you take a player away from a football team. You played a lot of starters for the Buffalo Bills. You ended up getting beat by the New England Patriots, who were trying to tank that game. And we're like, we're not even going to send Drake May out there. Joe Milton is wildly athletic, wildly talented, but no way, shape, or form can he complete more than 30% of his passes. Then he goes 22 for 29 for 241, a touchdown, and no interceptions. Runs the ball 10 times, and even included a touchdown, which is astounding. But you have to understand, and I understand when you come into final games, coaching staffs, players, this is their job. They're going to put their best foot forward, even if it's not as a good football team, which the Patriots certainly are. It's up to the general manager and the understanding of the concepts and the play callers themselves, where it's 3rd and 9. Are we going to throw for this first down, or are we going to try to quote-unquote trick them with an outside zone read that gets 2 yards and we end up punting the football? This was a huge miss for the Patriots, and I get it, as I just said. The coaches still want to win. Even if you knew he was fired or not, you want to put your best foot forward. Joe Milton's going to play like it's the Super Bowl for him, to try to prove he's an NFL quarterback, to just try to latch on maybe as a backup role for the next 5 to 6 years and make some money. It's up to the coaching staff to say, we're not doing this. Did you watch the Cleveland football game on that first drive? 3rd and 4. Let's run it. We didn't get any yards. We're in plus territory. Let's punt it from the 38, 39-yard line. That was hilarious. That's understanding the task at hand. And once the game gets out of reach like the Browns had, hey, let's play some football and see if we can pick up some yards and make it look like we're actually trying. The fact that the Patriots won that game is hilarious to me because they shouldn't have. Like, Mitchell Trubisky is a longtime starter in the NFL. He was 15 of 21. James Cook's getting carries. Ray Davis is getting carries. Curtis Samuel, Keon Coleman, Mac Hollins, guys that play a lot of snaps are getting snaps in this game. That's an easy loss for the Patriots, and yet they won the football game. So the joke yesterday when I saw that they fired Gerard Mayo is he got marching orders to lose that game and you'll probably be back, and was just dumb enough to win the football game and get himself fired. When it probably didn't happen, but boy, it seemed like it played out that way where they fired him immediately after they won.
Gerard Mayo, a longtime defensive assistant on Bill Belichick's staff, of course, won a Super Bowl in New England as a player under Bill. Kind of seemed to be the lame duck, the scapegoat, the filler, whatever you want to call it, between 24 years of Belichick and the next head coach in waiting, who, as reports are saying, more than likely is also a former Patriots Super Bowl winning linebacker in Mike Vrabel, more than likely making his way to New England, at least that being the top target for the Patriots. DRS, regardless of the result yesterday, do you agree with the decision to fire Gerard Mayo after only 1 year?
It's such a good question, Ben, because we were asked that question yesterday, and I said I would be surprised if they fired Gerard Mayo, not because I didn't think he was a good coach, but you see the clear indication. This was shoehorned in as the head coach by Robert Kraft and nobody else. And owners don't like to be embarrassed. So even though they had that bad season, I said, you know what's going to happen here? They're going to bring back Mayo. They have a ton of money in free agency. They're going to spend like drunken sailors, do whatever it takes to make sure he has all the players he needs to succeed, because I don't want to be the owner that goes, well, it was Belichick. And it was obviously Brady. It had nothing to do with me. This was his handpicked guy to be head coach, and it was an epic failure. But I do commend him for saying, yeah, I'm embarrassed, but this still is the right move. Let's move on from it. But I was surprised he got fired because it was Kraft's guy and nobody else's.
The Patriots entered the year with the lowest win total in the NFL, 4.5, and despite the win yesterday, still stayed under 4-13. We are continuing to break down everything around the NFL. Up next.
I don't like to toot my own horn, and I know that I'm setting myself up for probably disappointment later tonight, but I hope you were with us last week on the Final Five, because we almost swept the board. We had 2 out of 3 on the power play points with Reinhardt and Matthews. We hit the goal scorer line A. We hit the side with Washington. We hit the total with the over in Toronto and Buffalo. So we had a really good Final Five last week, and I'm hoping that we can now ride that wave.
Only on SportsGrid.
50 points in a fourth quarter for the Atlanta Hawks. Like, what is going on? It's like circus numbers. What are we doing?
And we sound like two old heads complaining. It's a tough watch. It's a tough watch sometimes. I don't mind the shooting. I just know the numbers. Like, when you strictly look at it from the numbers in betting, it's getting really hard to bet.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
Louis Riddick has interviewed for every job in North America. And I'm not just talking football. I'm talking about every business in North America of any kind whatsoever. Tire companies, grocery store CEOs, shopping malls, insurance companies. What job hasn't Louis Riddick interviewed for?
Pharrell Coast to Coast. Only on SportsGrid.
The NBA will take center stage once football stops, and people will watch the NBA playoffs and all that. But the standings are whacked out in the Western Conference. Like, Oklahoma City, Memphis, and the Houston Rockets are the best teams in the conference.
You want to talk about a team with overs and no defense? The Wizards are your team. It's unbelievable. They can't make a total high enough. It's nuts.
Sports Rage tonight. Weeknights 10 p.m. to 12 a.m. Only on SportsGrid.
Every result from the final weekend around the National Football League in the regular season, that is our charge for you, even if the implications were not for the playoff chase, but rather the race for the number 1 overall pick in the National Football League draft this upcoming April. DRS, because of it, the Patriots win when they shouldn't have. New England beats Buffalo 23-16. If the Pats had lost, they would have held on to the number 1 overall pick. They didn't, which meant that if the Titans lost, Tennessee would be in line to be that team holding the first overall selection. That is what happened. Houston, as a slight money line underdog in Nashville, actually played its starters for a couple of possessions, then turned it over to Davis Mills, and Houston won outright. At least a little bit of optimism to build on entering the start of the postseason. 23-14, the win for the Texans. Again, plus 110, your moneyline underdog in Nashville. The Titans had the worst cover season we have seen in the history of the NFL. In the Super Bowl era, the worst ATS team ever. 2-15 against the spread. But the silver lining is Tennessee now has the number 1 overall pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, and the Titans desperately need a quarterback.
And they will, and that's why you saw some of those odds change at the FanDuel Sportsbook. You take a look at the number 1 overall pick. They said, ooh, boy, we love ourselves some Cam Ward, so that's why it's starting to move. But we just talked about Gerard Mayo, who actually won a couple football games this year. You look at the Tennessee Titans. If there's ever a team that you said, boy, that doesn't surprise me, where Carthon got fired as the general manager because he spent a lot of money in that offseason, which I actually liked what he was doing. Because you know what? You're going to give Will Levis a legitimate chance to be a starting quarterback. Yeah. Levis is horrendous. Rudolph is horrendous. Callahan showed me nothing as a head coach. Now you have the number 1 overall pick. If I was the owner, and again, you make so much money as an NFL owner, you can hire and fire coaches every year, even if you have to pay them $20, $30, and $40 million just to go away. This, I think, would be the perfect break to fire your general manager and your head coach. Like, okay, number 1 pick, restart of the franchise. This was not supposed to be a 3-14 football team with running backs and wide receivers and defensive talent here. You were just hoping that a coach who's an offensive coach could have gotten anything out of Will Levis to be competitive, and he got the opposite. It seemed like he got worse with every single start. He said, well, Donnie threw a touchdown pass yesterday. No, did you see the touchdown pass? It's like a Hail Mary that somehow landed in somebody's arms for a touchdown catch for Martin. 1 catch for 49 yards. Enough. This Titans team is awful, but I like what the Texans did. You know what? We got to play next week. We're not playing our best football. Just get the good vibes in here. 6 of 6 for Stroud. A touchdown pass. Get him out of the football game. The backups played well to win this football game, and you're not hurting your draft position because that's going to come in the playoffs depending on how far you go. Good win for the Texans, but the Titans, I want them to restart again. That team stinks.
The Texans, since the start of 2023, with C.J. Stroud as the starter, 10-7 against the spread as a dog, which is what they will be even at home in H-Town hosting the L.A. Chargers. I think if Brian Callahan had to coach another game that Will Levis played quarterback in, he might voluntarily walk away from the head coaching job in Nashville as well. We talked Eagles and Giants. The Giants, the big news for them, retaining both Brian Daboll and Joe Schoen as head coach and GM, respectively. 2 games that had no implication for NFL draft order and or playoff race. The Colts win in overtime, 26-23 against the Jags, who fired Doug Peterson this morning, but kept Trent Baalke. A lot of conversation around keeping Trent Baalke as the GM. People are stunned and are like, what an idiotic move by Shad Khan in Duval County. The Colts, Jim Irsay saying that both Shane Steichen and Chris Ballard will be back. Oh boy, I wouldn't want to be in Indy this offseason. And the Arizona Cardinals, DRS, good day for Kyler Murray to end out the year, winning 47-24. Again, another game that had zero implication really on anything. The Niners end their year 6-11, a disastrous season defined by injury for the 49ers.
No, it certainly was a tough year for them. Maybe they can rebound, but if you're looking for an aging running back who's been known to be hurt is out throughout his career, I don't know if we're getting CMC back. Deebo Samuel, good luck with him. The one guy I was impressed with over the final 2 weeks of the season, though, Ricky Pearsall, actually started to play some good footballs, getting targets and obviously scoring touchdowns, getting some yards, but also Where do we go with the Arizona Cardinals? 8-9. It feels like they're a team just on the cusp and just need a little bit more to push them over. The one loss I did have on incentives, though, I got a great number on Kyler Murray, over 28.5 rushing yards, which he needed 50 and a touchdown to get a lot of money. They scored 47 points, and he didn't once look to run the football himself in the red zone for a touchdown, it felt like, to cash that in. But I'm surprised. Like, that number got up to like 43 and 44. I'm like, man, I'm sitting with a great number in the high 20s. For that to lose in that game was tough. Tough scene.
Yeah. Same bad beat for me, DRS. Hour number 3 comes up next.